On Ricky's first day as a delivery driver, his coworker handed him an empty water bottle. At first, Ricky thought his colleague was exaggerating, but after a full day of work, he realized his coworker wasn't wrong about how intense the job really was. He worked 14-hour days with barely any breaks. Even when he was so tired he could barely keep his eyes open, he didn't dare stop for a rest, because if he missed delivering a package on time, his pay for the day would be cut in half. If it weren't for his desperate situation, Ricky never would have taken this job. Ricky and his wife, Abby, live in England. They have a son and a daughter, and their life was simple and happy. But after the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis, both of them lost their jobs and their house. They had no choice but to take on temp work. These jobs were short, flexible, and didn't come with a fixed employer. Of course, that meant no workers' compensation, no basic salary, and no guarantees. People call it the gig economy. Abby works as a caregiver, looking after 7 or 8 elderly or disabled people a day. Ricky does odd jobs in construction and gardening. They've been renting homes for years, constantly at the mercy of landlords and often forced to move because of rising rent. Watching their kids grow up, Ricky knew this couldn't continue. He decided to find a way out. He needed to save enough for a down payment on a house. Through a friend, he found an opportunity to work as a delivery driver. The company manager explained the setup. It's a franchise system, no employment contract, only a franchise agreement. There's no fixed salary, the working hours are unpredictable, and pay is based on delivery fees, meaning the harder Ricky works, the more he earns.
You don't get hired here. You come on board. We like to call it onboarding. You don't work for us, you work with us. You don't drive for us, you perform services.
Being his own boss sounded perfect to Ricky. He'd heard from a friend that he could make £200 a day doing delivery work. Ricky was confident he could catch up in no time. Working 6 days a week, that's £1,200. More than he used to make in a whole month. But there was a catch. To do deliveries, you needed a van. Buying one would cost around £14,000. If he took out a loan, the down payment was £1,000, then £416 a month. Renting one from the company, that would be £65 a day, almost £400 a week. Clearly, buying made more sense. But they didn't even have £1,000 saved up. The only thing of value they owned was the car Abby used for work. She needed it badly. Her job involved visiting several clients every day, and some lived far away. The company didn't cover transport, so without the car, she'd have to rely on buses, wasting time and energy. Abby also had doubts about Ricky's new plan. If he worked 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, it meant he'd barely be around. He'd hardly see the kids. But Ricky had made up his mind. He promised, give him 12 months and he'd grow his delivery route, save up for a house deposit, and finally change things for the better. On his first day, Ricky was given a route and a scanner. The manager told him that once a package is in his van, it's his responsibility. It has to be delivered on time. The system tracks everything. And if he lost or damaged the scanner, he'd have to pay for it. That first day wasn't easy. He mixed up addresses, almost got a ticket from a traffic warden, and got into an argument with a customer, just because he was wearing a Manchester United shirt and the guy supported the local team. Still, none of it was a big deal. By the end of the day, he was completely worn out, but at least he made real money. Meanwhile, Abby had to visit 7 different clients. Now that she didn't have a car, she was constantly rushing between appointments. Abby was kind and patient. She cared for elderly and disabled people who had basically been left to the system. Even when her shift ended, if someone had an accident or needed help, she couldn't bring herself to just walk away. She'd stay and clean them up, even though she wouldn't get paid for the extra time. She worked from 7:30 in the morning until 9 at night, traveling from house to house, squeezing in calls to the kids during her bus rides, reminding them where dinner was, telling them to do their homework and go to bed on time. By the time she got home, she and Ricky were usually so tired they'd fall asleep on the couch. There wasn't much time left for their kids. Their son Seb was going through a rebellious phase. He skipped school and hung out with a group of friends who were into graffiti. They were all from struggling families, getting picked on at school. Graffiti became their way of expressing themselves. To buy spray paint, Seb sold the winter jacket his parents gave him. Ricky and Abby were angry, but they didn't yell or punish him. When they got married, they made a promise. No shouting, no hitting, just open conversations. Abby had grown up with an abusive father, and she was determined her children wouldn't go through the same thing. All they wanted was for their kids to go to college, find stable jobs, and not live the exhausting life their parents had. But Seb, he didn't believe school could change anything.
What, and Billy Hopkins, brother, 57 grand in debt, and working in a call centre now, getting smashed every weekend just to forget his problems.
Some people are born with everything, while others struggle just to make ends meet. Seb feels like he's the latter. Life seems hopeless to him. What's the point of trying hard if it doesn't make a difference? On the other hand, their daughter Liza is very considerate. She understands how hard her parents work and rarely causes them any trouble. On weekends, she even helps her father deliver packages. Not only does she lighten his load, but her charm and quick would often earn her tips. One Saturday, after finishing their deliveries, they decided to buy some Indian food to take home. It was a rare occasion for the whole family to have dinner together, and everyone was happy. Just then, Abby received a phone call. One of the elderly women she usually takes care of was stuck at home and hadn't been able to go to the bathroom for 3 hours. Abby couldn't ignore it, but this was a precious time for the family to be together, and it was impossible to get a cab at that hour. Maybe it was the warmth of the night or having his family with him. Seb, for once, didn't complain. He suggested that his father drive the truck, and they all go with Mom. They sang along the way, and it turned out to be a rare and warm evening for the family. But soon, Ricky's work started getting busier. A colleague's car had been damaged, and he asked for 2 hours off to get it fixed. But the supervisor said he either needed to find a replacement or come in on time. That colleague, who had been working non-stop for 14 days, finally snapped, and the supervisor replaced him with Ricky, assigning him routes that were high volume and time-sensitive. Since taking over this route, Ricky was earning more, but he was rarely home. He had no idea what was going on at home. If Abby hadn't called him, he wouldn't have known that Seb had gotten into a fight at school. The school had been asking to meet with the parents for days. Since the news came out of nowhere, Ricky couldn't find anyone to cover for him. If he didn't finish the deliveries, the fines would be overwhelming. By the time he finished and got to the school, it was already closed. The principal had decided to suspend Seb for 2 weeks and have him study at home. Hearing the news, Ricky lost his temper and blamed Abby for not trying harder to talk to the principal. All the problems that had been building up finally exploded.
I can't believe you were face to face with him and you didn't even bother to ask.
I can't believe you didn't turn up and ask the questions yourself.
I've been running around like a blue-ass fly all day. I've not even had anything to eat. Do you know how much work I've had on?
Blue horsefly.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is? Poor you. I never get me friggin' dinner any day. Do you know what? I've been stood in bus stops all day. I've got no transport. I've got to travel around by buses to do my job. Having people shout at me at bus stops all friggin' day. And I can't get to fucking work because I don't have the car because you sold it.
And the fight ended with Abby walking out. That day, Abby, who had always been thoughtful and dependable, broke down in front of one of her clients. She was completely drained, not just physically but emotionally too. The elderly lady she was taking care of gently hummed a song while brushing Abby's hair, like a mother comforting her child. The moment Abby left, Ricky regretted everything. Since they got married, they had barely ever argued. When did things start going so wrong? He realized his temper had been getting worse lately. Maybe it was just the stress. He was working nonstop. He knew he needed to get himself together. So he went to his supervisor and asked for a few days off to sort things out at home. But his supervisor just said he was self-employed. If he wanted time off, found someone to cover his shift. And that was the problem. There was no one. Under this so-called franchise system, Ricky only had 2 options: show up for work or get fined. Sure, he could quit, but he couldn't afford to. He needed this job. So in the end, he gave up on taking leave and just went back to work. The police called him, saying his son had been caught at a store. If he didn't want his son to have a criminal record, a parent would need to show up. But if Ricky left work now, he'd be fined at least £100. He tried calling his wife, but she didn't answer. In the end, even though he knew his boss would be upset, he couldn't let his son have a criminal record, so he rushed to the police station. Luckily, his son Seb admitted his mistake early on, and with Ricky's promise to discipline him properly from now on, the police decided not to press charges. Still, the police couldn't stand the way Seb was acting, looking so indifferent, so he ended up saying a bit more than he intended.
Because you've got the best thing in life here. You've got a family that care about you, that love you. You've got a father that runs away from work to be here for you today and suffer this humiliating experience that he's had to go through. I see it all the time, right? And there's people don't have that don't have family that care for them like that. And you've got it. It's massive, man.
But Seb wasn't having any of it. Ricky had been working himself to the bone every day, and today he got hit with a huge fine. Seeing Seb's indifferent attitude pushed him over the edge. He snatched Seb's phone, but that only fueled Seb's anger. The two nearly went at it. In the end, Seb stormed out. The argument between father and son set off another fight between Ricky and Abby. Abby snapped at Ricky, saying he almost lost it and went physical today. Ricky was upset, feeling like his wife wasn't on his side, and she was turning everything on him. That night, things calmed down a bit. After Abby confirmed that Seb was staying over at a friend's house, she told Ricky she'd be sleeping with their daughter. The tension at home was so bad that Lyrca had started wetting the bed out of anxiety. The next morning, when Ricky got up, he found that Seb had sprayed paint all over the family photo on the wall. To make things worse, Ricky couldn't find the keys to his van. Without the van, he couldn't go to work and make deliveries. That day, he missed work again, got fined £100, and was warned that if it happened one more time, he could lose his job. When Seb came back, Ricky immediately went after him for the van keys, but Seb said he didn't know what he was talking about. Abby rushed over and pushed Ricky away. He ended up sitting on a bench outside until dark, only leaving when Lyrca called and asked him to come home. Turned out Seb only damaged the family photo, but it was Lyrca who took the van keys. Being so young, she thought the fighting started when her dad took that delivery driver job. She believed if her dad didn't go to work, there wouldn't be any arguments anymore.
Sorry, it's not my fault.
When Lyrca spoke, the whole family broke down in tears. It was then that Ricky realized he didn't really know Seb at all. He didn't even know about the drawing Seb had made. Every time something went wrong, he just blamed Seb. The truth was, he hadn't made the time to truly understand his kid. But he was still trying to stay positive, thinking if he just kept working and earning more, he could fix things slowly. But life wasn't going to give him a break. One day, while making a delivery, a group of thugs suddenly jumped him and stole his goods. They even damaged his scanner on the way out. Sitting in the hospital waiting room, Ricky got a call from his boss. Most of the goods were covered by insurance, but 2 passports weren't, and he was going to have to pay for them. Plus, the damaged scanner was going to cost him £1,000. So, on top of his medical bills, Ricky, who didn't have work injury insurance, was now facing £1,500 in compensation. That's when Abby, sitting beside him, couldn't hold back anymore. She grabbed the phone from Ricky's hand and yelled at his boss on the other end. How could they still expect him to pay for everything after this? If they were counting work hours and not allowing any time off, then how was this even considered a franchise? Abby, usually calm and kind, finally broke down. She saw herself as a good person, law-abiding, caring for others. But why was this happening? Her husband had been robbed, they weren't getting any compensation, and now they were being asked to pay up. Ricky felt even worse. He thought he'd found a good job to make money, but it had turned into this nightmare. The losses from all of this had made their financial situation even tougher. If no one covered his shift the next day, he'd be fined £100 again, and now he couldn't get out of it. The van he bought for work still had a loan on it, and without this job, he couldn't find a better one anytime soon. That meant his debt was only going to get worse. So, the next morning, he quietly woke up and left a note for Abby. He told her not to worry, that he'd be fine. The note was written on one of his delivery slips, the kind he uses for work. It was printed with "Sorry, we missed you." But the one he'd really missed wasn't the customers. It was his family. But he had no choice. He started the car and Seb chased after him. What his father had gone through really shook him. He couldn't just watch his dad like this and still go to work. But Ricky told Seb it would only take 6 months. He promised they'd get back to where they were. At that moment, Abby came running out too, but she also couldn't change his mind. He drove off, not stopping until he could no longer see his family behind him. Then he broke down in tears. Life had to go on. Even though he could barely see any future on this path, he still had to keep moving forward. And with that, the movie ended. Sorry We Missed You is one of the heaviest films I've seen in years. Sometimes the deepest despair comes when you know you're sinking, but can't find a way out.
We're like sinking into quicksand, and the kids are trying to pull us out with a branch. But it just seems like the more we work and the more hours we do, we just sink further and further into this big hole. I have it all the time.
Feel free to leave your thoughts on the movie in the comments, and I'll see you in the next movie.